Hey guys, Stephanie and Axel. Axel is jumping around over there.
A little hyper today.
So cute.
Um, well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he's been hyper today. Let's just put it that way. He might be zooming around a little bit. So zooming on a Zoom, imagine that.
Zooming on a Zoom. Cool. So, what do we have to talk about today?
You want to pick one? Do you want to pick a topic? Nope. It's not gonna help. We got what is it, Axel? Oh, a little heavier topic. Media versus true diverse viewpoints.
Ooh. Hmm.
It's one of your topics, I know that.
Media versus true diverse viewpoints. Interesting. Hmm. When you see people across the board talking about the same topic, and you even see this in, comedy movies, or things that are run on a continual basis, talking about the same thing. You're not really getting a diverse viewpoint, I don't think. So, differing opinions, watching people argue a topic, but not to the point where they have to be right, is an interesting thing to view, and something I've definitely seen over the years, past couple of years. You're starting to see a little bit more diverse viewpoints coming in, and I really, really like that because I don't have to like everybody. I don't have to agree with everything everyone says, but you have differing viewpoints. This is not a world of having everyone come together with their hands holding, singing kumbaya, and it's all perfect. We're about being really, really different. That's part of what makes us strong. It's part of what makes us unique. And it's something we're seeing more of. And I really like that because this sort of cookie cutter blanket way in which you have to be all the same creates a very bland society. It deadens the human spirit, really, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Speaking
I
of
mean,
differing opinions.
no, it's you know, when I started out in the medical field, it was always about, you know, second opinions, third opinions, and then you arrive at whatever, treatment plan or whatever, or diagnosis even. Um, what would you see on the news, especially in the last couple of years, because I think it's just been more in our face. If you at any given time switch between all the news channels, they're talking about the same topic, one topic, beating it to death, when there's how many billions of people in this planet, and that's the only topic you're going to talk about. It's like there's so much going on in the world, and you're only focusing on one thing. And then if you go against what they're saying, it's not open for discussion.
No.
That's a red flag. It's always been about, they kind of contradict themselves when they have this whole diversity thing, because we're getting that at work now. Diversity. Yeah, you want diversity, and yet you're shutting people up if they're speaking out about it.
Well, and this, it's really important for people to remember that this has been done in many, many different ways. I mean, I'm a
Oh,
musician. They have done this with music. They will take a hit song and play it until it's just, you can't even listen to it anymore. You're so disgusted with it
yeah.
until they ruin it and literally destroy whoever made it in to begin with, who probably wasn't that great anyway. But it's just like, this is what they do. Um, and it's like, it's insanity. And so these forms of media have been doing this for many years in many different ways. Remaking a film is kind of the same
Oh,
way.
yeah.
I mean, why do we need to see something that's already been done? Why?
Especially if it was done perfectly the first time, or
Yeah,
like really well the first. I'm not going to say perfect, but like all the classic movies. It's like, really, they want to remake Bullet?
yeah. And the thing
Like,
is, like, this is deadening to the human spirit. I mean, is there not another person who's creative in this industry who could come up with something new? Apparently not.
yeah,
This is what we're dealing with.
I know.
That's pathetic. It's like
Yeah,
nobody needs any of this. And so you talk
it,
about it in terms of that, and then I can even talk about it in terms of just saying no to something or having a difference of opinion. In my mother's case, who lived with cancer most of my life, most of hers, over 35 years. And they wanted her at one point in the very beginning, because they didn't know, they wanted her to remove both of her breasts. And she said, no,
Mhm.
I'm not going to do that. And 10 years later, they realized that that was not something they had to do. Thank God she didn't do it.
Mhm.
She got to a point where she ended up deciding to do that much, much later. But, this was a choice that she made in a time that was very unpopular and went against the grain of that. And this is really important because it doesn't mean that they're right all the time. People don't always know, and you have to have a difference of opinion. And I think how many women, like my mother, said, hell no. And maybe that caused people to go in and research more optional ways that they can do to help people. I
For
doubt
every,
that very seriously, but
but I've seen it too. Like, for every paper that's published, research wise, there's another one that is reporting opposite results. So it's like, that's fine, because maybe they did something a little differently. And that's important because there's so many different
isn't
genes that are regulating the body,
and isn't
that
that the true
every
definition of
condition.
science too? The
Yeah,
true
exactly.
definition of science is to research polar opposites and
Exactly.
quadruple opposites so that you can come to some kind of truth.
Yeah. And then to just come out with one blanket statement for the entire world. I mean, a couple of years ago, or before, I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we were a lot of the companies that our vendors are making diagnostic tests. Everything was about personalized medicine. Personalized medicine. It was a big thing they were pushing because everybody's body is different. Everybody has different genetic makeup. They have can't talk, pre-existing conditions that
Yeah.
are going to affect the outcome. So, and then there's a lot of different genes regulating and at varying degrees. So, they have to look at each person and say, okay, this is working for 95% of the people. 5% are not reacting to it. What do you have that's different? Or 60% of the people are reacting to this and successfully, but what about the other 40%? And there's so much research coming out of Europe that's, in some ways, I feel like they're way ahead of us in terms of just day and night light cycles. If you give chemotherapy at a different time of day, some people react to it better because everybody's cells are functioning on a different time.
It's so many factors of how different we are.
Yeah.
You could have
So,
two same people living in the same city, but one lives by the ocean side of it and the other person
mhm,
lives inland.
mhm,
These are going to affect your physiology and your
yeah,
biology,
yeah.
um, all kinds of things. And then your whole genetic makeup, which is very diverse between every individual. But then you've got all the factors of your surroundings and your
Mhm.
terrain and all of these things that affect.
Because I always said, in my mind, I always said 50% genetic, 50% environmental, because you can't rule out either one. But I mean, even with thought processes too, I mean, we want people to be creative, and yet everything we do is to stifle that creativity. So, everything they say and do is a contradiction, and they just want you to follow this narrative and, oh, don't look over there, don't question that.
So when you get down to this thing of, what's blasting out on media and then what's actually really giving you some facts, um, it's super important to look at that and to look for that, I think.
And question everything, trust your gut, and do the research yourself. And
And
don't be so quick to dismiss people that they're trashing, because I mean they're trashing world renowned, highly published doctors right now, and doing it
30 and 40
because,
years in their field all
yeah.
over the globe are being
And why?
censored.
Because they're actually saving lives and keeping people out of the hospital. So, but are we seeing any of that on mainstream media? No,
Mhm.
because it's a threat to them. So just be aware and look everywhere for information.
Where the money is going, because that's always the thing, it's always that way. It's very, very, very much about money, where it's going, who's supporting what. Um, super important. If somebody doesn't have a stake in that, you're going to see a different viewpoint. But most of the time, when you look at things, you're seeing very similar viewpoints across the board. If you haven't seen that, I would implore you to take 3 or 4 weeks or a month off from watching anything and then go back to it and see what you see. That's a really great way to start going, to get some kind of place where you can come in and decipher for yourself.
Mhm.
If you're just running it on a loop in your living room, you're not going to have a perspective.
And the thing too is, like, if you go anywhere, like, what's the thing they show if you go to a sports bar or you go to an airport? What's on the TV? It's always the same cable station with the news. Like, why is that? Like, why is it the only news station there is? And it's just, yeah, just boggling. It boggles the mind that, you know, we hadn't noticed this before, you know. But I guess the important thing is we're noticing it now, and now we can start looking into the real truths and what's been used to deceive us.
Yeah, and you really need to watch the entire picture and see. I mean, I don't watch a lot of television. I try not to watch any at all, but I do. I mean, everybody gets inundated with ads, no matter where you are. I saw one the other day. It was like a food ad for something for food. And at the very end, they have this just picture of the Washington Monument. And I thought, what in the hell is that doing there? Why is this company based in Washington, D.C.? What is going on? So that's a very, very bizarre example of something I saw recently that just made me go, what
That's
is
not
this?
that's not
Why?
even, that's not even subliminal anymore. That's like right in your
I'm
face.
pretty weird, right? I mean, I'm just literally talking like just a normal person watching something, and I'm like, I mean, it's well beyond the years 10 years ago when I used to laugh at the pharmaceutical commercials that were like, may cause itching, burning, dying, suicidal tendencies. It's like, what part of this do people not get that's not okay? You got 50 things for one thing you're going to cure. No thanks. But like that didn't jar anybody's thought process. I mean, people I know who did get it, we thought it was ridiculous too. We laughed about it. But
Mhm.
still, it's like, why is this even now? They're like sticking some weird city in the middle of a food ad. Like, what is that about? It was so weird. I was like, why? Why?
Yeah.
I don't get it. And if you don't get it, chances are there's something else going on there. That's, things should make sense. Things
Yeah.
should be clear. This kind of thing is very weird.
And if you don't understand it, look into it, you know? I mean, we're not going to know everything, but, there's plenty of resources out there other than, you know, the TV to find that information. I mean, the one thing that I was getting when I was fighting certain battles on Facebook with certain you know, misinformation pages, um, you give them published articles, but nobody wants to read them. You're giving them the evidence, they don't want to read it. You're giving them a YouTube video of a established professional medical person presenting what they're seeing in the field with their patients and how they helped every single one of them, every age range, to stay out of the hospital. And what do I get? Oh, you're going to trust YouTube, or you're going to
Well,
trust whatever,
oh
you
my
know?
God. I
I'm like,
mean, you're looking at doctors who have scientists,
yeah,
who took this injection and started to hear stuff, wanted to find out what was going on, went into their labs and studied it, and presented different forums, different initiatives to show this information because no one else would. And, this is horrific, but, this has happened and these people this is their profession.
but
So
the thing that
I
gets
don't
me
get
too,
it.
there's a lot of stuff that we do online now that we didn't do. You can take courses online, you can get CEUs online, you can, there's medical colleges that have websites for pathology where they have images, and there's tutorials everywhere. You're going to say that all of those don't count? All of those are what? You can't trust them? It's like, we're in the age of technology now. So why are you trashing these sites that are bringing information just because it's not in a traditional classroom? But how many people stayed home and took classes online?
For many,
But
many
that's,
years now. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't understand that argument. That doesn't hold for me either. So it's like, if you don't want to see the information and you don't want to do the research, that's fine, I guess, but don't knock it if other people are trying to do it.
Definitely don't watch something that's telling you the same thing, because there's a thing in law where if two people's stories, when they come in, corroborate at a level that's just imperfection, that is suspicious,
Mhm.
because no two people's stories should be the same. And this is known in investigative law. I guess I had
Well,
heard
yeah,
this
because
somewhere.
everybody's perception and what they
Correct.
see are, they should be different. Yeah.
So if it's the same, exactly verbatim, which is what we're seeing a lot of and have over the past 3 years, verbatim, every single thing is the same. That's definitely questionable.
Reading a script.
It should be different. It should be different. Everything should be different. And you could come at it from different angles, and then you would see the truth, because the truth will always prevail and always lines up.
Mhm.
It's just the way it is. So this kind of repetitive thing that we've seen is not the diversity that people are proclaiming. That isn't diverse at all. I think that's a really important thing to note in our media, but also in our politics, because politics are pretty much all the same now. There is no
Yeah.
diverse anything in it.
Yeah.
If it had, we would have split off into 4 or 5 parties by now, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
Yeah.
That's what I always thought should have happened. And, we're down to 2 that are actually identical and both incredibly corrupted. That's a
Well,
fact.
here's an idea. Don't have any parties.
Here's an idea. Do away with all of it.
Well, that too. Well, it will. What is it?
Act-
90%? 90% is going to be removed.
I mean, there's maybe one president we could have, and that would be Axel.
Yeah.
Bunnies for prez.
Definitely.
We could handle you, but no one else. But yeah, I just think it's important to keep these things in mind, I think that's an interesting topic. I enjoyed that. Anything
Yeah,
else you're
I'm sure
thinking of?
there's more, but at some point we may revisit.
We may revisit this one. This is a good one.
Yes.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yes.